The Heart Home Community's most recent Baldwinsville Community Update. I'm your host, Shelly Hoffman. Hey everybody, and hi Chief Mike Lefancheck. It's been forever since we talked. How are you?
I'm doing well. It has been a long time, but it's great to see you.
Thank you. I dressed up for you today, just so you know.
I did notice that, yes, in our little commentary before we went live here. I did notice your very festive outfit today, and I'm wearing my traditional festive outfit as well. So,
Yeah, yours doesn't change that much every time we talk. I got a little variety in mine.
No, I tend to be a uniform guy. Most days I'm in uniform. It just makes my life easy. I don't have to figure out what am I going to wear. I'm going to wear black socks or black socks. So,
I can see the benefit to that. I always say I'm going to get it more into like a J. Crew kind of a look, and then I go past Walmart and I find something like this, and I'm like, I end up buying it. My poor kids.
For some of the people, you might have to describe what even is a J. Crew kind of look. So
that's true. So in this huge time frame that we haven't spoken, I mean, I've seen you out in the community a little bit, obviously, but what's been going on in Baldwinsville?
Well, so there's been a lot going on, not only in Ballsville, but around the county, and we'll talk about those kinds of things. In the village, obviously, there's been a lot of activity over the last few weeks. On Thanksgiving Day, we've got the Turkey Trot with the Kiwanis Club. And then 2 days later, the big Parade of Lights event that happens. And the coordination and planning that's required for both of those is really immense. And our lieutenant, our second in command, Mike Lockwood, just does a tremendous job with writing an operational plan so that those events can go off as smoothly as possible. And it might seem to people, the bystanders that show up and maybe participate in one or both or watch, but the amount of planning and coordination amongst a wide array of agencies is pretty impressive. I'll just take, we'll start with the Turkey Trot. Obviously, we have some of our DPW people utilized where we block roadways, where people are going to be running with plow trucks. Again, that's an attempt to keep people safe so that no vehicles come onto the route. Is it 100%? No, nothing's 100%. But in those key high traffic areas, especially at the start of the race, we try and do as much as we can to accommodate that. And then we've got to put volunteers at each one of those intersections, curb cuts, as it were. If you're on West Oneida Street, Battery, MacArthur, Sunset, Triangle Place, and Walnut, and all those streets along in there, we've got to ensure that vehicles don't come out on that route while there's people running and walking and all those types of things. We need, an ambulance personnel there and coordinate with the Kiwanis Club, and there's just so much involved. And Mike really handles that load. And then you look at the no parking signs that need to go up and stuff. And then the Parade of Lights event, I can tell you that Mike came in at 5:00 in the morning to put up barricades downtown. Then we had to coordinate to leave some spots open for one of the stores, Allison Handworks Place, BU Nutrition, that so people can come and go from there during the day because they're open for business. So we try and be as accommodating as possible, and still want to make sure that route is safe for later on when we have nearly 200 vehicles and several thousand people that come to the village. And that event is just a massive undertaking. On Friday, Mike and I both were out hammering no parking signs and stakes into the ground up on Oswego Road up on 48. Mike was in early that day. Then he went home. I came in about 9:30, met with the emergency management folks. We erected some pole cameras along the route because I don't get to see any of the parade. I'm in the command post. So we have a command post with myself, the fire chief, people from Onondaga County EMS, representative from Greater Baldwinsville Ambulance Corps. So we're there monitoring and coordinating the radios and really the logistics of everything. And that's where we are, is in that command post. So I don't see 1 second of the parade live. And Mike handles all that. Then he came back in and held briefings with all the people that are going to be doing traffic posts and fire police people from around the county. It's just a massive undertaking. And then you've got to think about trash pickup afterwards and how that's going to get accomplished. And all then those no parking signs and barricades need to be taken down so things can return to normal. And to be honest with you, I'm maybe hitting, a good tip of the iceberg.
Tiny bit.
But yeah, but really, if you look at the operational plan for this event, it is extensive. And
Well,
again,
and
go
it's
ahead.
always changing too, because I know last year after the parade, I drove to the office, which is, along that parade route, and the amount of garbage, like cups and everything that were there, because the DPW, they have to start cleaning, getting rid of some of the garbage cans and stuff. And the
Yeah,
one thing that I noticed this year is there were movable garbage cans throughout the parade route. So there was still some garbage out, Chief, but I didn't see nearly like last year. I just remember thinking, oh my goodness, because I feel that Baldwinsville, the village at least, is usually very clean. Like when I come out in the morning, that's one of the things that people visit me comment is just how clean our streets are. And that's something I won't forget last year driving, what would be Sunday morning, I guess, to the office, and just the amount of garbage. And this year there was a little bit, but nothing compared to last year. So I'm assuming that was a conversation that happened last year and then changes were made for this year, just in that piece of it.
yeah. So as we debriefed with myself and Mike Lockwood, with members of the fire department, we talked about that very issue. So I believe the fire department went out and purchased about 10 trash cans to put those out there, and then sent a crew of people out to try and pick up and get things cleaned. So it did look better. And because when you bring all those people in and people are cold and they'll go somewhere and get coffee or some other beverage, and then when they're finished, some people aren't from here like yourself and wouldn't throw something on the ground. But then there's others that, well, I'm done with the cup, and they did throw it on the ground. And by providing them the trash cans, it wasn't as bad. But we still have people that maybe aren't as considerate as they could be. And but every year we sit down, we do a debrief. We've got notes from this year for next year, things we need to modify and change. We need to put up more no parking signs in some of the neighborhoods up in the Brown Tract, some of those side streets, because they became impassable because people were parked on both sides. So we need to have people just parked on one side. And those are all things that we're going to have to try and hammer out as to how those signs are going to get up, who's going to put them up. We're going to have to order them and all those types of things. So, it really is quite the undertaking. And to your point, every year we do a debrief, we write notes. We came back to the police department. We had food for our people, before they went out. We did a briefing, made sure everyone understood what their role was, made sure that they had their traffic vests on, that we were going to be safe. And then when we came back, we went back in, our meeting room and sat down and said, all right, any glaring issues that people had. And we had our people say, geez, this was an issue, that was an issue. And we wrote that down because that way it was fresh in their mind. And so that way we could address that and look at it when we do sit down. And it'll be after the first of the year with the representatives of the fire department to say, okay, what went real well? Like this year, we know when we closed the roads down, that went as smoothly as it's ever gone. That was probably as good as of a route closing as we've had. But then we had a couple other things pop up. So everything has to be constantly reevaluated, redone up a little bit just to ensure that the event's going to be successful because it's grown in size and scope every year.
I was just going to ask you, do you have a number? I probably don't have this year's number yet, but when it first started, I mean, I can't even imagine how small it was, right? And it wasn't even small probably then to compare to now.
Started with less than 10 vehicles. And it worked to nearly 200.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a great parade. I love it.
Oh, it's wonderful for the community. And, I do look forward to when I do retire down the road, being able to come and watch it because I don't get to see 1 minute of it. And everyone tells me, I know a lot of people and I have friends along the route and they're like, stop over. I'm like, I'm working. I can't stop over, and things. And they're like, oh, it was great. I said, well, that's good. That's what we want to hear. And that's what we want to hear about the Turkey Trot. That's what we want to hear about the 4th of July event. That's what we want to hear about the Memorial Day parade. But all those things take a lot of planning and coordination. A lot of that stuff falls on Mike's shoulders. He and I meet regularly to go over that. Yes, we've got operational plans from previous years, but to your point, things do change. We need to modify things a little bit and always ensure that, this year, one of the last year for July 4th, one of the big criticisms was no one really knew what time the fireworks were going to go off. So this year we ordered some of those sandwich signs that had some messaging on there. One we could put down some we could put in Mercer Park and over on the Southwest Trail to indicate no alcohol allowed. And then the other thing was fireworks at, and then we just had some signs printed out, and then we laminated them and we stuck them to them and said fireworks at 10 o'clock. So that way everyone knew when they showed up with their children or friends or family. This year, obviously, it was kind of rainy and drizzly, and then it stopped for the fireworks, which was nice. But this way, there was no question of what time of the fireworks. Everyone could just point to the sign. We were still asked all the time. We would then just point to the sign. We were like, oh, yeah, we could have seen that too. Wow. But again, you learn something every year as to how can we get that message out? How can we communicate that to everyone? This is the time. As we were on foot patrol down there, we made sure we let people know fireworks at 10, fireworks at 10. That way that message could be sent out to everyone.
Yeah. No, because you're right. Because I live where you can see the fireworks,
Yeah.
and that not this year, but the year before. You do get to that point, like when are they going to start? And you're afraid to walk away because the minute you walk away or the minute you leave,
yeah. And last year they were later. And this year the village board, really made sure they work with a promoter to say, okay, this is really the latest we want them to go off. Obviously, the promoter would like it to be as late as possible because they've got musical entertainment and people out there that are still enjoying themselves, and they're trying to, sell drink and sell food and that kind of stuff. And they want their band that they're paying to get their money's worth, so to speak. But I think 10 o'clock was a reasonable expectation. That way you could just say this is the time and then move along from there. Yeah. So yeah, good.
Perfect. So what else has been going on? I mean, I know there's a lot because we covered just like checklists before we started today.
Yeah, there is. So there's a lot of different things happening. First, I'll talk about, some of the things with us in our department. We've got a couple officers that are very aggressive with their traffic stops, and we're up over 75 plus DWI arrests for the year, which I'm glad to see that we've got people that are aggressively out there stopping vehicles that are exhibiting some behaviors that are dangerous driving, weaving or not staying over the fog line or center line of the roadway or speeding or driving aggressively. But to see that number of intoxicated drivers in our village, and I have sometimes people say to me, well, are these people borderline intoxicated? Our average DWI arrest is almost twice the legal limit. So the legal limit obviously is 0.08. Our average DWI arrest is about a 0.14 or so. So that's almost twice the legal limit, and certainly more than 1.5 times. So these are not people that have just had a couple drinks and then we happen to stop them as they've left a party or some other locale. These are people that have clearly had too much to drink. I mentioned to you previously, we just arrested someone not too long ago that was nearly 5 times the legal limit that we arrested. So, that's very scary to me because in a village like Baldwinsville, where almost any time of the day or night, especially in spring, summer, fall, there's someone walking in our village. I don't care what time of the day or night it is, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, somewhere is walking. And, for us to say that we're a pedestrian friendly village and we want that walkability and we want people walking places and going to the library or going to a restaurant downtown or one of the various shops that are here, we want that. But on the flip side, that worries me that we've got that many intoxicated people. It doesn't surprise me because if you look at the amount of traffic we have, just the simple volume of cars, we're bound to have a certain number of people that have had too much to drink.
And just to stop you for 1 second, Mike,
sure.
It's just any time of the day, from what I heard. It wasn't you that mentioned it to me, but I was talking to somebody else. And it's not always the 2 a.m. to 4 a.m.
Oh
You're
no.
finding people throughout the day as well, correct?
Oh yeah, no. The person that was nearly 5 times the legal limit, we arrested that individual at about 2:30 in the afternoon.
Mhm.
So this is something that, I guess there's a little more prevalence for it in the evening, but it's not exclusive to that. It's certainly not exclusive to only happening at night. This was during obviously the daylight hours at 2:30 in the afternoon when, you know, you think about that's when school lets out, that's when the buses are driving. So there's a lot going on with that stuff, and it's something that all of our officers are aware of and try to be cognizant of when we can. You know, it's they can't spend all their time doing traffic enforcement, obviously, because we've got a lot of other things that we require of them. Uh, you've probably heard around the county and around the country the vehicle larcenies, vehicles being stolen. Especially there's a couple makes out there that are much more susceptible to that, and there's been viral social media uh, uh, influence on those particular makes. I'm not going to mention them, but they've been out there, and we have not been immune to that. And we've had people still leave their vehicles unlocked or leave the keys in a vehicle. One vehicle that was stolen from the village was recovered in New Jersey.
Wow.
So clearly there's groups of people that come out of the area, come out of the metropolitan New York area, greater NYC area, and looking to steal vehicles, and then they end up down there through some other nefarious means, and either chopped up and dismantled and used for other parts on other vehicles, or utilized down there. So just because we live in this northwest part of Onondaga County, we think we're a little bit removed from that type of crime. We're certainly not. Over the last week, 10 days, we've had extra officers on duty coming in at 3 in the morning till 7. There's been a lot of larcenies and burglaries of businesses going on, gas stations, smoke shops, those types of places, insurance agencies in the county. And we've put on some extra people during that time period, some of our officers, just to have extra patrols to try and ensure and try and dissuade anyone who is committing those crimes, that your chances of getting apprehended are much greater here in Baldwinsville because we've got patrols saturating our area. But for a small agency such as ours, there's a limit to what we can do and how much overtime we have available, and how many people are available to come in. But so far that's been successful. I'm going to knock on wood here and hope that I didn't jinx that. But, we can look on the map and see where they've gone up 57 or in Van Buren or Camillus or other communities in the area that are a little bit more widespread. The police presence is stretched a little thinner in the big towns than we are right in our village. So anything that's happening, yesterday I was invited by one of the local churches to come and speak, and I spoke to them and I said, anything that's happening in any area in the country is happening in Ballsville, just maybe on a different scale. Is it a smaller scale? Sure, because we're a smaller community. But, anything that is going on is happening anywhere.
Well, I think it helps too. You'd mentioned the smoke shop, and the first thing I visualized is the one that's like 2 doors down from the police station. I thought, boy,
Yeah.
you have to have a lot of guts if you're going to do something to the smoke shop that's 2 doors down from the police station. But they
But
probably will.
but here's the thing, our officers aren't hanging usually at the police department. You
True.
might see a vehicle parked here and stuff sometimes because they might have to run in, do some paperwork or use the facilities or things along those lines. But they're usually out and about on patrol, so they could be down on Ellsworth Road and be 2-3 minutes away going lights and siren to get back here. You don't think the village is all that big at 3.1 square miles, but there are some places that would take us a little bit to get from point A to point B. And especially, if roads are bad or there's some sort of traffic congestion or something along those lines. So whether it's, one of the gas stations that closes, whether it's any other type of business, As you know, as a business owner, we've got a lot of different businesses in this village, and it's not limited to one or the other, and things. So it's all these types of things are things that we try and do our best to combat and to be visible out on patrol, because we think the visibility piece is helpful. That if someone sees a police car, they can sense that this probably is not the municipality to try and commit crimes. Doesn't mean we're immune, because we're certainly not. And as we saw up at Stewart's over the summer or earlier this year, where that got broken into, and the alarm went off, and by the time people got there, the whoever had broken in there had fled the area. They weren't in there very long. It doesn't take very long, less than a minute for a smash and grab. Even in an emergency, our response is about 2 minutes, which is very, very fast. But if they're in and out, by the time the alarm goes off, hits the alarm company, goes to the 911 center, 911 dispatches, and one of our units gets there, if it's 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and our units are tied up on an arrest, or, as I mentioned, they're patrolling elsewhere, it's going to take them a little bit. If they're up in, Baldwin Hill, up off of 370, it's going to take 2 or 3 minutes, just even at lights and siren, to get up to where we need to go.
Yeah.
So, no place is immune. And, all we can do is do our best to try and prevent as much crime as possible.
Because we haven't talked in so long, I have not heard the remember to lock your doors and take your keys inside. That was kind of a chant that we had there for a while going.
It was interesting. The mayor at a village board meeting few meetings ago commented to me, or during his comments, I was talking about locking your car doors and bringing the keys in. He mentioned that someone he knew had their vehicle stolen. He said, the person was, he brought the keys in and stuff. Somebody stole the vehicle. Well, I went up to the mayor afterwards and said, yeah, no, they didn't. The keys were in the vehicle. So that's how the vehicle was stolen. So, just so you're aware, that's how that happened. So what they might tell you and what might reality be are two different things. So, unfortunately, we've got groups that are traveling the area, not just from the city of Syracuse, but from, as I mentioned, we're finding a stolen car down in New Jersey. So clearly there are groups of individuals committing crime that are traveling great areas, to do this crime. So it doesn't matter, that your proximity to an urban area, that's really got nothing to do with it. If they're coming from New York City, we're 4.5 hours from there. It's just not impactful.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm laughing because my newest vehicle that I have, because I change houses and vehicles quite a bit, but my new vehicle, I don't have to lock it. The minute I walk away from the car, it locks itself. And then I put down what I want in the office and I go back to my car and I don't have my key in my hand and it will not let me in. So good luck getting into that car, because I can't even get into it half the time.
Well, I did actually see you in that new vehicle up on Route 31 and pulled up next to it. And I went, oh, that looks nice. And, tried to get your attention, but I think you had the radio going. And,
I probably did.
And then the light turned and then you were gone. So your lane moved faster than mine did. But yes, so I've sent out that description to our staff to be on the lookout for
that vehicle. Yeah, I do have that fear. I'm not gonna lie, but but I do love the new car. I'm not gonna lie.
Absolutely. And,
So
and then, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we talked about the Turkey Trot and some of the other events that were going on. Was there any, because it was since beginning of summer, was there any events that really caused any kind of havoc, or did you guys pretty much have them all done? Like we can pretty much see the same flow going into this new year of the events, like the Chowder, Margarita Fest. We have so much that happens in Baldwinsville. Like every season there's something that's happening, but we normally touch base and we didn't.
Yeah, there is a lot going on, but no, nothing that caused us, quote unquote, havoc. For us, I would say right now the Parade of Lights event has grown in size and scope. That, Mike Lockwood and I have sat down right after that to say, okay, we're going to have to reach out for some more police resources, because we're stretched so thin that day, and the size of the crowd. And we ran into a couple situations where, marijuana smoking or cannabis smoking is legal. So we've got somebody smoking cannabis at the Four Corners. The smoke's ending up in people's faces that have brought their children. They tell the person to stop. The person who's obviously been drinking and now smoking, they tell them in no uncertain terms to shut the what up. And then now we've got a problem where our officers have to get involved. They're supposed to be monitoring traffic and crowds, and we just don't have enough people there. So we did have a couple of those situations. So we're trying to figure out how can we have a kind of a reactionary teams to get from point A to point B quickly if we need to, and what mode of transportation will we utilize, where are we going to get those resources from, whether we need to coordinate with the sheriff's office or the state police or both, and how are we going to do that. So those are all things that we're already starting to plan, because for that size event, when you've got a crowd 10 deep, and we all know that some people enjoy, having a few cocktails before then they are there at that event. And then with, whether they're smoking cigarettes, cannabis, whatever, something ends up in, geez, you're blowing a smoke in my 2-year-old's face. Can you stop doing that? And these guys are like, well, I'm not doing anything wrong. I can do what I want. And one thing leads to another. And next thing you know, our officers are getting involved, and there's a sizable crowd and there's only 2 of them. Yeah. So, those issues are the types of things that we need to think a little more globally and out of the box on. But no, there's nothing that has caused us true consternation. Just we saw the potential this year for something to get out of hand, because if some guy gets upset and takes a swipe at someone to defend their family, now before you know it, we've got 10, 15 people fighting, and it's all over YouTube. And that's no, I mean
YouTube,
really,
Mike. You mean TikTok? Come on, get with the times. It's not YouTube. It's TikTok nowadays. Don't you?
Whatever it is, it's not going to be. It's not going to be. That's not the visual we want.
No. So, and to your point, for anybody that hasn't come to the Parade of Lights, where my building is located, we can see the parade in the front. We can see the tree lighting in the back. So what we do is we watch the parade from the front, and then we swing to the back. The mass people, I've never seen anything like it. Like, it's almost like a Times Square type of appearance. The people that just come into the village square for the tree lighting, and those people are kind of spread out. So you have everybody coming to that same point. And we actually had that conversation of, you're mixing a lot of different personalities, a lot of different expectations, little kids, or I mean, it's a great event, but to your point, you're mixing a lot of different types of personalities and whatnot into one spot. We talked about that a little bit today, because there was a gentleman smoking where we were, and there was a family. They didn't say anything; they just moved away, because of the smoke.
Right. I certainly understand both sides of it, and I can understand how things could escalate, and that's we're talking about ways. What do we need to do to ensure that doesn't happen, or do our best to try and prevent it? I suppose that's the right word, because we can't ensure it's not going to happen. We can just do our best to try and prevent those types of things by having as many people around and law enforcement presence as we can.
Well, and that's kind of the point of the wrap up, right? Is to be preventative. What are we seeing, and how do we stay ahead of it for the next time?
Exactly. Yep. That's exactly it.
Nice. So what else has been happening in the village of Baldwinsville?
Just the routine stuff that we deal with. Obviously, this is the holiday time period. We tend to deal with a lot over from Thanksgiving to Christmas and New Year's. Custody disputes, couples that have, split up and children are involved, and whether it be over Thanksgiving or Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, and the children are supposed to go one party or the other, and the other one doesn't want to have them go. And, that type of thing, that we have to handle those things. This is obviously a time of year where some people that might not have family and friends, or a lot of them, they feel lonely and depressed and isolated. So we deal with those mental health calls, and obviously the custody disputes are part and parcel with domestic disputes. So for many people, while this is a very fun time, and for me it's a very festive time, and if you saw my house, I've got a 10-foot tree, and it's all very nicely decorated. But for some people that don't have that, and they don't have that feel that sense of connectivity. It's not a sense of joy for them, and we need to be aware of that, cognizant of it. And we deal with those folks, and we come into contact with them. So for us, those calls are always paramount during this time of year for us, unfortunately.
So one of the things I saw on Facebook is there's been I don't know if it's an organization or a person, but trying to help around the holidays and like leaving blankets and different things underneath the bridge. Are we having more? Are you seeing more like people maybe that are homeless or struggling like out on the streets in Beeville, or is that just something that is just made more aware of because social media, I guess?
Yeah, we've got an individual in town who's choosing to be homeless, choosing to live out of doors, and we're very aware of this individual and deal with him regularly, and things. And this is an individual that we've offered a great deal of help to, and things. But at the present time, he's choosing to not do that, and stuff. So it kind of goes back and forth. Again, there's no law against that. If someone chooses to not reside, in an apartment or home or something or elsewhere, that's certainly their right, and we respect that. At the same time, try and maintain community standards also. But unfortunately, it's again, to my point from earlier. Anything that's happening in a large area is going to happen here too, just on a smaller scale.
Yeah. I got you. I guess that's the piece I didn't think about, but that you had added about there's nothing that says by law you have to live somewhere, right? It's just like this
Yeah,
mindset a lot of us have is, you know what I mean? Being
right.
indoors, but with mental health and different choices people make, we don't always understand it, but you do feel bad, right? When it's for
Oh, of
some
course.
reason I thought it was gonna be 50 degrees today, but it was only 35. but
Yeah,
it was cold, so you
yeah,
feel
no, without a doubt. And it's going to get colder. And, our staff's aware, and, it's not anything that we haven't dealt with before in years past. There's been other individuals, in and around the area that have chosen to, live in a tent in different places. And there was someone that lived just outside the village, in Van Buren, in a tent for quite some time. Um, and I knew that person for a long time in my career, and there's been others also that you might just not hear about because they're in a tent in the woods over off of Miggs Road or something, and we don't know exactly where they are, but we know there's something over there, maybe in or out of the village, but we certainly see them around, and stuff. And so these are people that we become familiar with because our staff is out and about, stop and talk to them, see how they're doing, if they need something. And and oftentimes, we'll offer them, you want to go to the rescue mission, you need to go down there. And oftentimes they choose not to go there, which is okay. There's reasons why they might not want to go. And to them, they're valid. And we have to respect, their personal choices. And for us, under the mental hygiene law, a person has to be a danger to themselves or others. So they really have to do something overt, like make a statement that they're trying to hurt themselves or want to hurt themselves or plan to hurt themselves, or actually do something to try and hurt themselves. They cut their wrists, they take pills, they do something overt. And then, we take those folks into protective custody and bring them to a hospital setting where they can receive a medical treatment and B, hopefully mental health evaluation and treatment if necessary, to determine what's the right course of action for those folks. We generally don't see people on their best days, and I've told you this before. We tend to see people during their worst of times is when we're dealing with people. So no matter if it's someone we deal with regularly or not, we're always looking to try and provide them with as much help or assistance as we can.
Well, that's good to hear. I mean, obviously, that, but just even hearing you say it, because when you drive past, you do feel bad, and you wonder if there's anything that could be done, to kind of help them.
Sure.
So, any other update or anything else you want to throw out to the community? I kind of missed your no parking signs because it's after November 15th. Or
Yeah. So right. It is after November 15th. You can't park on the streets from 1:30 till 6:30 or 6. I think it's 6 in the morning, and that just basically allows Chuck McAuliffe and his team at the DPW to make sure the roads are plowed overnight. because if we've got vehicles parked in the street, some of our streets are wide. You know, if you drove on North Street, it's very wide. But then there's other streets that are pretty narrow. And if we had parking there, the plows couldn't get around. And then the real issue is not so much for our department, but the fire department and the ambulance. Those vehicles would not be able to pass. So the streets need to be cleared. So that's why that's there. I know our officers issue a lot of warning tickets as this gets started. And then after the first 2-3 weeks, we start to write tickets. And certainly when it's snowing, we write tickets. So that's kind of where we're at with that. Please just park in the driveway, park off the road, because we're not looking to punish anyone. We're not writing tickets to try and generate revenue. It's not the way we operate. We don't do that. It's simply really a public safety issue to allow those guys at the DPW who, you know, come in at 2 or 3 in the morning and plow the road. So that way, when everyone gets up and starts heading to work and the school buses are out there, that we can pass the roads safely and efficiently.
No, I knew that. I just missed the spiel, so I wanted to hear it.
Well, I gave the spiel at the village board meeting. I'm doing this with my thumb because the meeting is they're built that way. So, but I gave it a couple of times during the village board meeting, and I know it was on Pack B, and try and get the message out. And our officers have been issuing warning tickets, and you know, at this point, it's well into December, so at some point they're going to start issuing parking tickets if they haven't already. But you know, that's kind of where we're at on that. You know, clearly we don't want people drinking and driving. So, you know, pay the $25 fine and take a Uber or Lyft home. If you leave it on the street in front of one of the local drinking establishments, or, you know, better yet, if you park in the parking lot, that's even better. You know, because it's a whole lot better off than A, somebody getting hurt or killed, and then B, DWI is a very, very expensive charge because you're going to have to pay exorbitant fines, alcohol counseling classes, evaluation, insurance surcharges. It's going to cost you thousands of dollars, and nobody wants that. So I just prefer people did some sort of ride sharing, and that way everyone is safe. They get home safe, they get there safe, and we don't have to worry about people on the roads.
Nope. I think unless you have something else, I think that's a good way to wrap it up, especially with such a festive season coming up and
Absolutely.
some parties and stuff. So.
Yep. Just happy holidays.
All right. Thank you very much, Chief. I will talk with you soon. Happy holidays.
Sounds good. All right. Bye now.